Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Monday, September 9th of 2024, and this is our show where I bring users builds on stream here, giving them advice and live feedback about contest selection, things I can do, things I think they can do differently in their builds to help improve their sim ROIs, to help their long-term win expectations here. So this will be our first day doing NFL main slate reviews. Super excited. Have already 3 people in the queue for today. Probably going to keep us pretty busy with this being the first time doing the main slate. I know first time doing Showdown took a little bit longer as well. So if anybody else wants their builds reviewed throughout the week here, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server. We have plenty of time here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday till NFL is kind of back here before our next slate. So excited to jump in here and see what we can see. So first person up is going to be CC, sent in that he wanted to be reviewed for NFL from yesterday. So let's jump back to then. Okay, so first thing I see here, right? I think this is really good. Playing the main slate on DK, playing 1, 2, 3, 4 showdowns, couple entries for FanDuel main slate as well. Spreading out that action across multiple slates, I think is a super good thing to do. So very happy to see that. But let's stick with the main slate. Most entries on the main, so gonna spend most of our time here. All right. So contest selection looks good, right? Couple entries in the milli, it's fine. $1.20 mini max quarter, couple 1 3 max, 1 single dime time. I think this is all a really good choice. Some of these contests are like so good, right? Like yes, you're gonna play the mini max because the max challenge. Yes, the $1.20 max is great, quarter is great, dime time's great. I think that was basically it, right? Aside from these few entries that you had in the milli, basically stayed under $1. So I think this split's okay, right? This is like a little bit low on the single entry and 3 max, but seems like, just start from like lowest to highest entry fees, kind of max out at like $1. That's where it ends up, and that's okay. So I think this contest selection is totally fine. All right, so which one am we going to review? Okay, it looks like we might be able to get this quarter jukebox to load. So in case you guys didn't know, we're having a little bit of trouble processing some of these really big contests. The milli, like the $3.20 max, the $1.20 max, the mini max. Some of these like really, really large contests are giving us a little bit of trouble. So bear with us with some of these growing pains with, being early on in the year here. We'll get that all sorted out. But looks like we can see the quarter jukebox, which is awesome. So let's jump in here and hop over to users. Chris Carve is our guy here. So max entries of 20, sort by sim ROI. All right, so let's see what we can see. So good news, Chris is positive sim ROI, right? Positive 36%. That's great. Highest sim ROIs here in like the 70 to 80 range. So some room for improvement, but already off to a strong start. So we like that. Okay. So salary, it's kind of interesting, right? Compared to some of these top sim ROI sets, salary looks actually a little low, right? All of these sets, 49.9, 49.8, 49.9, 49.8, 49.8, 49.9, 49.7, 49.9, 49.8, 8, 9, 9, 8, 9. So kind of interesting, right? Like kind of even makes me think like, hey, maybe I need to raise my minimum salary to a little bit higher number for these, big main slates, right? That's something that I'm thinking about right now as we're doing this, right? Raise min. And then, you can even like take that idea, that hypothesis, like a little bit further and just say, okay, from these sets that are grading out really well, you could use a magnifying glass on them. You could go to their 150 lineups and say, hey, what is the lowest salary lineup in their set? And if I recall correctly, I was told that there is a bug with sorting in the contest, the lineup view like this at the moment. So if you wanted to do that, you could hop back to old Saber Sim and then come in here and sort. It used to be up here on the top right. You could sort by salary low to high and see like what the lowest salary lineups are, for the top 10 users, right? Like come in here and look like the top 10 highest maxers and see like what their floor is, considering their average is so high, right? So you can take that a little bit further. You can do that for, contests you didn't play. Like go look at the, one of the big 150 maxes and see what's going on there. But it gives you ideas, right? It gives you things to try out, strategies to test and do trial and error with. So that's something here that I noticed right away. Uniqueness is good. Sim average score is fine. We see 125, we see 127, 127, 124. So this 126 isn't bad at all. There's nothing here that's screaming like, hey, you're doing something wrong, which is what you would imagine for somebody grading out like positive 36% sim ROI. But the bad news is, to figure out what we need to do to improve, we're going to have to go, a little bit further in this analysis, right? And so for me, that would be like, okay, I'm going to go and look at Chris's lineups and I want to see, what decisions he made, right? Where was he heavy? Where was he not? We can start with stack types, right? What kind of stack types did you do? Okay, at least QB +1 in all your lineups, right? We can look at game stacks, not a lot of game stacks. Looks like most exposure was to Tampa Bay. So taking like a stand on like Baker, we can see where the field was, right? Like, okay, hey, when we start by actual, how are you in relation to the field? We could come in here and look at all exposure, right, for players. That way we can include, anytime you're looking at positions, I wouldn't go through the positions. I would always go to all. And then you could, if you want to filter by wide receivers, go to wide receivers in this position tab, because that will do wide receiver and flex combined, right? So, okay, over on Hill, over on White, little under on Walker, over on Iosivas, and then, you kind of go down this list, right? So basically what I would be doing is saying, hey, I kind of want to see some of the takes I made, and then I want to go and see, well, did the people who graded out as the best do something completely different, right? So then I would come back. Looks like we're still filtered for 20. I'm assuming it's just like this next player right here is the top. Yeah, 89%. So big dust. So what did big dust do? It's going to filter for big dust. Okay. Stack exposures. QB +1, QB +2, no runbacks at all. No QB +3s. So interesting. No runbacks, right? So no game stacks. Looks like they used less quarterbacks here. Interesting how you okay, going to all. You can see where they came in on like some of the action on guys. So matching on Tyreek, over on White, a little close to even with Walker, jammed Iosivas, higher on Kamara. If you want to see like what stands they took sort of by exposure. So big stand on Gesicki, higher on CD Lamb. But for me, like what I'm trying to get out of this is, where did they do things different? And I'm trying to see, is there anything here? I would do this for a couple players, right? I would probably look at like the top 3 maxers who graded out the best. And like the whole time, like kind of taking screenshots, moving like exposure over, snapshotting like name and exposures, and trying to figure out like, okay, what do the top 3 players look like? And how do I look different? And trying to figure out like, is there somewhere here where it's like all these players got to this spot and I didn't? Why didn't I? And kind of trying to figure out what did they see that I didn't see? And, can I recognize that spot in the future? And I've done this, and I usually do this in like NBA, but like, for instance, I would pull up like, in like past seasons, I'll do analysis. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go and look at like petty theft, and I'm going to go look at like Utica, and then I'm going to compare like their exposures to mine, and I'm going to see where they're different and kind of how they got to like where they are. And like, sometimes they would do the same thing and I wouldn't do it. I'm like, okay, why did they both decide to jam James Harden today? And then I would like go in, and because I had none of them, and I was like, okay, spend some time looking, and it's like, oh, okay, I kind of get why they're playing James Harden now. Like, I need to be on the lookout for like such a case in the future, right? And when it comes up again, then you can nail that spot. So I'm not saying you're gonna find something, but you can, right? It's out there, like it might happen. So when you're already positive sim ROI, you could spend time doing stuff like that. Another thing is looking at your worst sim ROI lineups and seeing, trying to figure out why they are so bad and trying to avoid lineups like that in the future to raise your sim ROI. So that's where I would be spending my time. But all in all, very strong start for Chris here. So now we are going to jump into the build used to fill these lineups. So it looks like build 4. See if we can learn anything here. Okay, so it looks like they used multi-fill. Sorting by exposure. Minimum required adjustment, Tyreek Hill. No min or max exposures. No rules, no filters. Adjusted minimum salary, right? Bumped it up a little bit. That seems in line with what we've seen so far. No stat game team exposures. A couple small adjustments. Burrow, Levis, Sean Watson. These are like fairly minor adjustments. And it's like Watson's, 0.83% owned, bumps him to 1.5. Basically saying, hey, I want to basically like at least match on these quarterbacks and I want to have some exposure to them. Small 2x adjustment on Baker. I think this is fine, right? You're going to be opinionated. That's totally okay. Okay, so this is something I want to bring light to again. So they put a max exposure to EO Cevis in the wide receiver spot. But if I go over to the flex, the builder can instead of doing those max exposures in these columns, go to all, go to position, right? Go and find him in this window and put that max of 45 right here in the all tab. So just make that small adjustment there. But all in all, I'd say good contest selection, good strong start with the sim ROI. Can spend time studying top players in your contest, looking at your lowest sim ROI lineups. All of the post build stuff looks really, really good. Some small tweaks. It's okay to have opinions. I like it. using min uniques in all your contests. Again, I like it. And then using the multi-fill option once you've dialed in all your exposures. So good stuff here. And the only other thing maybe you could do is reorder these contests, right? Like, I don't know if I was doing this, I would want the Millie Maker to be my top lineup, my top contest, right? So like I would want that one first. I usually just sort by prize pool, but putting the contest that you care about most at the top and then contests you care about less at the bottom and going in that order would make sure your absolute best lineups end up in the contest that you care the most about. So another small tweak there, but all in all, really good stuff, Chris. All right. Good start to the show. Next person here is going to be Shane. I'm sorry. It's going to be Mathis in the Discord. So let me get him up on the screen. Just about there. All right. So we got Mathis up here. This doesn't look updated. This looks like the last one because we see that there's 237 entries here, but it's showing 217. So chances are it didn't update, which is okay. Anyways, let's go into the contest tab. So an ultimate user here, right? Right, has all their contest sims set up. Contest selection looks good. It doesn't look like they included any single entry or 3 max. So I know that there's like a bunch of good contests, but if you can, I would try and mix a few of them in here, even the smallest ones. But you know, that being said, like I know there's a lot of good contests here, so it's okay. All right, let's go and look at the quarter jukebox here as well, right? So we saw one user in the quarter jukebox. Let's go and look at another user. Just waiting for the contest to load. Go to users. Okay, we got Mathis here. Enter twin lineups, put 20. Sort by sim ROI. Okay, so Mathis here, right? 64% sim ROI. So a little bit higher than CC here. Couple things that stand out: slightly higher average salary, slightly higher sim average score, right? CC was at 126-ish, and we see Mathis pushing like 129. So, you know, 3 points there seem to be making a difference in the sim ROI. So that's something to take away as well, right? Going back to, you know, our previous review, like, hey, maybe, you know, a small adjustment there could help as well. But liking what we're seeing here so far. So let's see what they used. Late swap the lineups. So I'm assuming they just went from build 1 to swap 1. So let's just start with the original build. Okay, so default salary of 48.5 here, but still got to really high salary set lineups. Using multi-fill, using ROI by target contest, no uniques here, using unique rank as the fill method. Yeah, this looks like pretty good. This is like surprisingly flat exposures for one min unique when you compare to like ownership here. So this looks pretty good. I agree with using one min unique here. Nothing in stack exposure, nothing in games, nothing in team stacks. Nothing in all from intermax exposures. Nothing in quarterbacks. So this looks like a very hands-off approach. And it looks like they just let the contest sim do most of the work. Like there's honestly almost very little to talk about here, right? No rules, no filters, no minmax exposures, sets up the contest sims. You know, I bet this process took 10 minutes, maybe, right? They come in here, they load up the contests entry file, come to the build, run it on default settings, come to multi-fill, set up all of their target contest ROIs, rank buys, order these contests however they see fit. 1 min unique, save, upload, done, come back, late swap, optimize the lineups further. And they're just saying like, hey, I'm just going to let it rip. And then I'm going to optimize my contest before the second set of games start, right? I actually think late swapping is super important. I don't remember if Chris had a late swap from the last review that we just did first here on the show, but if you're not late swapping, I would recommend late swapping. And then if you're on Ultimate, I would definitely recommend late swapping because of the live data, right? That's going to be so important for how we optimize each individual lineup you play based on how it's done to that point in the slate. So optimize your lineups, going to be re-optimizing in the late swap window, going to be super, super important. But great stuff here. Mathis, very strong lineups, a very strong contest selection, all the above. Looking really good to start the year. All right. Next person up is going to be Wolfpack. And let's get Wolfpack up on the screen. And let's go to main slate. All right. Got Wolfpack up on the screen and jump into the contest tab. Let's go sort by entries. Minimax. Contest selection looks solid. Like it a lot. Very strong stuff. Let's stick with the quarter. See how this looks. So it's kind of nice doing 3 reviews and looking at the same contest that they all played, because we see like minor differences between the sets, and like maybe we think it's like not so big a deal, but then we look at like, 2-3 users and like, wow, this is actually ended up being like a little bit more important than we initially thought. So Wolfpack here, 20 entries, going to filter for 20, sort by sim ROI, right in the same range that Mathis was, this like 64, 65% range. And again, seeing sim average score of like 128. So the biggest thing that we saw with CC was like the 126 sim average score. It seems like 128, 129 is like kind of a sweet spot to getting these like very close to the top sim ROIs here. So strong stuff here from Wolfpack to start. Let's see what they did. Again, seeing that they ran a swap at the afternoon window seems super important. All right, gonna hop into a build. All right, build is loading. What am I looking at? Oh, I had this saved open. That's why. Let's change something. And really quickly, Stanley, can you drop your DK username in the office hours channel in Discord so I can add you to the queue for tomorrow? That would be great. So if you could do that for me, I will definitely look at your stuff on tomorrow's show. That'd be perfect. All right. So a little different here, right? The way he set these up, he's using a single fill. So he's like, hey, I want to have these 5 specific lineups in my millie, and then I want to go through them and look at them, right? So a little bit more hands-on approach, which is totally okay, right? But this is just to show the different use cases, right? When you use single fill, you're a little bit more in tune with what your lineup looks like. You could look at it, you could edit it, you could set minimax exposures and like kind of see them update, right? So doing that gives you a little bit more hands-on approach. I do like the aggregate metrics that reviewing here. I think those look good. They're using a min uniques that makes sense to them, right? So they're setting the min uniques. They're actually looking at the exposures and they're saying, am I okay with this? And if the answer is yes, they're leaving it. So good stuff there. No rules, no filters, default minimax salaries. Doesn't look like any minimax exposures for players, for quarterbacks. Defenses, yeah, pretty hands off in the positional tabs. So this is interesting, right? Went through and unchecked some teams here. I don't know if they did this for all of their builds or just for the 5 milli maker lineups that they did. But I'll say that I like this approach a little bit more for 5 lineups than I would like it for like a big set of lineups, right? So like if you're doing this for 5 lineups, then yeah, kind of get a little bit hyper specific about teams you really don't want to see. But if you're doing this for like all 246 lineups that you have, I would probably say this is like a little aggressive, like Xing out more than half of the team stacks. But for 5 lineups, I think it's fine. And then specific about stack types here as well. Not using a QB plus, basically Xing out all QB plus 3s. I don't know exactly what my opinion is on that. Honestly, if I wanted to get an opinion on it, I would run a default build and see how often QB plus 3 and more is coming up. I remember doing the review shows with Max last year, and QB plus 3 seemed viable. So another thing you could do, right, is like go into a contest you played and go and look at lineups with stacks that you didn't play, that you intentionally left out, and see like how those lineups are grading out. So if you're like, I never want to play a QB plus 3, you should actually like probably go and check yourself and be like, okay, am I actually right in that thinking? And go and look at like a handful of QB plus 3 lineups and see like, are they grading out negative more often? Are they grading out positive more often? Should I rethink my opinion here? So I think that's like a good little case study to do. But another one would just be running a default build and seeing how often those stacks are coming up anyways, right? So just some food for thought there. But all in all, solid sim ROI, 65%. Got to be happy with that and doing a lot of right things. So I'd say that, if you weren't grading out well, all these changes you made, maybe they're too aggressive. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So I say that, whatever you're doing is okay. And frankly, good. Not just like, okay, it is good. So good stuff. But really, really strong sets here. Very happy with what I've seen from all 3 users here. So I think that is a very, very good sign for a lot of people using SaberSim and kind of trusting the tool and letting it do his thing and having small opinions here and there. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these this week here. I do got to run. So I got Stanley on the list for tomorrow. He's going to drop his name in Discord so I can add him to the queue. And anybody else who wants these reviews, you guys like this content, want me to do it for you, drop your DK username in the Office Hours channel in Discord. But until tomorrow, everybody, I will see you all then. So take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.